reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm Jay Clay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Everything, anything, plenty perfect. Everything, anything, plenty perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty perfect mode. Perfect mode, everything, anything, plenty perfect mode.
Perfect.
What up? Welcome to Perfect Mode. And first off, I want to start by telling you that we love y'all. We're grateful for the opportunity to be anywhere, sharing our thoughts, and hopefully helping you realize that you are perfect. And the reason why we can unapologetically say that is because we know that you are one of one, numero uno, and you cannot be duplicated, replicated. You can't be copied. You are unique. And the only way you would think that you're not perfect is if you're looking at somebody else and saying, I'm not their uniqueness. And of course, it's yours truly, Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. And I have my boy Jay Clay, spiritual rapper and teacher. And we about to get on here and talk about the relationship illusion. The relationship illusion. What up, Jay?
What a happy Sunday. Happy perfect Sunday to all my perfect people in perfect world, perfect land, perfect mode, land, world, all of this. Yeah, man, this relationship illusion that we all fall privy to and are sometimes unaware of it, unless we came across it before and we've taken steps to get out of this illusion. But it's one of these that it's in some ways inescapable to be unaware of it or to just be aware of it. But yeah.
So, I mean, I'm going to get to you and, what your thoughts were. But I want to just kind of just tell you the first thing that came to my mind as I read the topic and just my initial thoughts. And the first thing that came to my mind was every relationship that I have with other people is truly just a relationship with myself. And the reason why I say that is because whether I wanted to acknowledge it or not before now, or just in specific situations, I realized that I've always dictated the terms of all the relationships. It doesn't mean that that person is always acting in accordance to what I want, but I literally dictate that. And so it's just all about the relationship that, I kind of have with myself and what I want to get out of life. But that's just kind of on the level, the surface of it. And just that's the first thing that came to my mind. But I want to know what your thoughts were when you came with this.
Yeah, so I mean, it's similar to what you said, but I guess it's a lot of ways to go at this. But I guess let's start at the top from what everybody does, but may not realize it. So, like we have relationships with everybody. Every interaction, in a sense, is a relationship, whether it be romantic or it be relatives. Like if you think about the word relative, these are people that are relative to some point of us, like a brother, a cousin. It's relative to maybe my entry point into this world, but also with relationship, like you are in relation to someone else by some kind of term. So meaning like not just like a best friend, not just a significant other, but to things as well. So like let's say you are a basketball player, you have relations to playing basketball. Like your identity is tied to that in relation to this thing. So then the first thing to understand is you're only defined by what you're around or your relationship to something. So what are you really? Like if you didn't have that relationship, what would you be? Like you might say you're a son, you're a father. These are all relationship based. You might say you're an actor, you're a singer or a rapper. These are relationship based, related to the craft. But just at its surface, who are you without these relationships? Are you anything? That's the first part of it.
So, and that actually kind of goes back to, my initial thoughts of it. Um, just using definitions as, the surface level, like, father, husband, brother, best friend, rapper, motivational speaker. And, you know, my relationship to these things and the way that it kind of orders my steps and the way that I decide to move every day. And then when I look at all of those, and then it's kind of like a trick. Like, am I forgetting the core of who I am, or am I forgetting, um, um, or am I not in? I guess not in as in touch with what my purpose should or could be here on this planet when it comes to just living my life on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's why I come to the conclusion to, like, when I think about a relationship illusion, I never looked at it as me having a relationship with myself,
Yeah.
right? Because even though I have relation to being a father, um, I, I I assume all the fatherly duties, right? And I feel like if I don't do these things, then my relationship with these people are kind of broken. But in reality, it's not that, because I can never do anything and I will still be the father in a sense, right? And so then that's what makes me look at the way that I'm, um, like I said, in relationship with myself. Am I doing the things that I'm doing to make me happy? Right? Am I
Yeah.
doing the things not as in the sense of where it's a responsibility or it's something that it has to be done, but the core for me is joy. The core for me is, love and happiness. And so, am I making my steps based off of the true relationship with myself, or the relationship that I feel like should be dictated by the situation that I've created? Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. But see, but even before getting into that, like, I'm trying to get to the core, if there's such a thing. Like, if all our relationships are defined, we're defining ourselves by, in
Accordingly.
a sense, what is not or what we're not. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like we need the relationship to justify our existence. And not, and again, I'm not saying like you have to have a friend or you have to have a parent or a guardian or whatever to justify yourself, but in our own minds, like when we think about ourselves, we kind of think about ourselves in relation to humanity, in relation to the people around us. And is that an accurate depiction, or is that a limitation, so to speak? And how could we define, like, but before getting into a relationship, like you said, that relationship with yourself, how would you even define that?
So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's a limitation per se, because it's kind of all tied to, like, what it is that you're wanting to happen, what it is that you're wanting to do, or where it is that you're wanting to go. Because again, without fatherhood, in a sense, without me being a father, who am I truly? Like, that's, for me, when I think about the core of it, that's the way that I kind of try to interpret what we're talking about. And so that's the reason why I would tell you the core of me is, and and I will say this also because all the relationships that I've created, they all kind of look this same kind of way. Even though they're not the same, they all kind of look the same way, but it's all based off of, is it making me happy, and is there love tied to it? Because again, in a relationship, the other side, whether it be with a thing or with a person, is not looking for the same thing that I'm looking for. You know what I'm saying? Like, my kids. I mean, I guess I wouldn't. I don't want to use my kids, because I would assume, I don't know what they're looking for. I assume that they want me to love them and they want to be happy, and I assume all of these different things that I want to do, because generally, no matter how those things make them feel, it makes me feel better. And that's the core for me is like, am I doing this? Is this relationship with myself that I'm creating making me fu- be fulfilled in a sense? Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. Well, first, shout out to him loud BK.
Him
What's up? What's up?
loud.
Um, So yeah, okay. So the thing is, when you were talking, I was thinking about I'm thinking about me. I came into this physical existence as a son and a little brother. So for a long time, I knew the world as a son and a little brother. Then I started to know the world as a friend. Then I started to know the world as multiple friends, or as a best friend, or as a student, or as a all of these things. And so I'm understanding how, in a sense, relationships show us who we are. Because again, like I kept coming in as a son and a little brother, how could I see the world any way else besides the relationships that I was given, that I accepted for myself? And so once we start to realize what relationships truly are, we can start to change the dynamic and remove the illusions. So as you said, like relationships are, one, it is with yourself, but it's a way to learn about yourself, like who you are. Even in your definition, you see yourself as a father. Like you even try to take yourself out of seeing yourself as a father. You just couldn't, because it's just too ingrained in you right now as of who you are right now.
Right. And so even with you pointing that out about me, I know it as I was saying it, but that's the reason why I still try to point it back to me as saying, what is my purpose for wanting this relationship? Because I know that it doesn't have to be. I know that it's just something that's created in a sense, right? And I would tell you, one of the greatest relationships that I've ever spawned, I'll call it, is with you. And the reason why I say that is because what I was, now you talked about what you're able to learn from these relationships, what you're ever able to bring back to you to for me, like I said, fulfillment, like understanding who I am, what this life is supposed to be about for me, like was having a friendship without any expectations. Because there's never been a friendship, and I'm using friendship as the example, where there was not a level of expectation there. Now, I'm not saying that we 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 haven't had a level of expectation for each other. That's not what I'm saying, because there is always some type of level of expectation, but there's also an unconditional love that's tied to it too, where that that's there, that's like, regardless of what happened, I'm good. Regardless of what it is, it don't matter. Even though even though I know Troy might expect this from me, or Jay might expect this from me, even if I don't do it, nothing changes. It's literally just level playing ground all the way around. And so when you have things like that, you're able to kind of level out what the definition of a friendship is. Like this relationship illusion that has been set for us our entire life. Well, if I call this dude my brother now, like, this is what I'll have to happen, and now this is what I'm tied to, and this is the way that I got to move, and I can't never hurt his feelings, and I can't do all of these things. But the reality of it is, it's like I'm walking into a room with a blank space, like nothing is just all white, and it doesn't matter what I do, I can't mess that mug up. And I think that's kind of the picture that I'm kind of trying to paint anyway. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and that is like the illusion of most relationships, because a lot of relationships are you're looking at what you gain out of it. Like even when people pick a partner, they look at the things that they lack themselves and say, oh, okay, I'm going to gain this with the partner. I'm going to gain this, and this. And then it becomes more of a transaction than a relationship. And then it can cause problems because, like you said, you're holding them to the expectation of what this title means. And not only that, like it's like you have to uphold your end. But then if you're not getting what you think you're getting out of it, you're either going to be resentful, or you're just going to be tired of giving what you agreed to give, because this is only an exchange and not a relationship, as you put it, where there are no expectations.
Yeah, and so that's the reason why I like to use the idea or the thought of walking into a empty space with all white walls. Like, if you imagine going to a museum, or if you were trying to put your work somewhere, you want to bring your work, but you also want to kind of be conformative to what you see already, right? And I think that's also a big thing when it comes to a relationship illusion. As an example of what I mean is that when you walk into this room, like, you understand the relationship with yourself is just all about what you can bring, not the expectation of what you can bring, but only what you paint on the walls. And um, I think that's where that illusion really holds its or rears its biggest you know, wait is because you always are more consumed with what you're supposed to bring to a relationship versus what you can bring to a relationship. And I think that's what people kind of get lost. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So say it again. You said you consume with what you're.
What
Say
you
that
feel
one more
like
time.
you're consuming what you feel like you're supposed to bring to a relationship, opposed to what you can bring to the relationship.
I love that. And yeah, and it can become a burden too if you're only doing it for that reason. You say, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and that's not in you to bring. But also like the nature of every relationship changes every moment because you change every moment. Because what you accept and allow for yourself and don't allow for yourself, it changes. And if you're not, I guess, aware of that, you can get stuck in a mindset of someone that lacks experience. You know, like one thing I like to bring up is again, I think we said this last episode, is how we're living off of a 7-year-old mindset. Like we come up with these judgments. We're like, oh, this is how the world is. This is that. And then we never relook at them ever again. So now we become 21, 35, 47, 56. We still got this same mindset and we haven't changed it because we think what we figured out at 7 is the end all be all, but it's not. Like we're just in every moment we're starting anew, and we sometimes apply that to relationship and try to apply that to all the people involved in it, and we wonder why we're so stressed all the time. Is because we haven't loosened those ideas that we thought are supposed to sustain us forever, but it's not necessarily like that. But go ahead.
And so again, so this is why I like to always bring it back to me, right? And I always try to say that this is when you cheat the world, when you don't get to bring you holy, right? Again, you have the relationship illusion that says when I'm with these people or when I'm in this place, this is the way that I should be, right? And one thing that took me a long time to realize is that who I like, first of all, I'm not saying that anybody's just always looking at you or anybody's always looking at me or that anybody knows everything about you, right? But the thing is, the thing that people recognize in you is the thing in them that they generally love about themselves and they want more of in any given moment. And so, like, when you decide not to, well, first of all, you're only around, shouts out to Angela, shouts out from the open house, doing work out there, selling houses, doing it for real lives, real to keep doing your work. But whenever there was a time when I was the rah-rah person in my clique. Now, we didn't have many fights, but if something was going to go down, somebody was going to call me and be like, man, this mug is going down, right? And a part of the reason why was because I talked loud, number one, and they 100% knew at the time that I always had they back regardless. And I wasn't trying to be that. That's just kind of the way that my heart was at the moment. I kind of was just like, but based off of the way that I grew up, at that time, I felt like I just can't let nobody come between me and my friends. And I was always going to be the loudest person. So now the key here is I couldn't be like that around everybody. For what reason? I didn't. I was trying to live up to the expectations of what other people wanted from me, period, right? But when I say you cheat the world is at that time, other people might have needed that from me, but whenever those situations came up where they would have needed that, whether it been for me to liven them up, encourage them, be at a part, whatever the case be, they could not reach out for me to be that for them, and actually that would have opened me up to being 100% of myself anyway, which would have made the world better at that time, right? And it's just kind of it's just funny how we minimize ourselves that way. And now you have a real relationship illusion because now you're not even who you are for real to the people that you should be that way to. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so you touched on two things I want to speak on. So first is because we only know ourselves under these labels that we were given, when we came here, whether it's son, nephew, niece, cousin, whatever. we learn about ourselves through others' eyes. So like you said, like we don't know us. We know us in terms of what someone else dictated or what we believe the meaning of this relationship means. And so we start acting outside of ourselves because again, we're not ourselves. But secondly, you also spoke about how like it's not people could be in a relationship not because they like the other person, but because they like how that other person likes them. Because they don't like themselves or they don't love themselves, but this other person likes or loves them. So they say, "Oh, I need this person in order for me to love myself," and they're kind of misconstruing it. But again, as you said, in both these cases, you're only in a relationship with yourself because it's only you that's there. Oh, go ahead.
No, I want to just remember what you said, but I want to read what him Loud said as well. He said, in my opinion, love is a deep and abiding sense of caring for and about another human being. On its own, it is not passionate on any sense. Love cannot be an illusion because it is a feeling. A parent's love for a child can be a good example. Not always, of course, but the general orientation of parental love is to help the child grow, to develop, to grow into who and build their life. Now, I think this might kind of tie into what you were saying too when it comes to um, the expectations and what you become. And so I knew we would get here because I was talking about how at that time this is the way that I was. Now the reason why I was that way, I don't know, but I was that way with certain people all the time, and they would always hit me up. And whenever I got around other people, I would not be that way because I didn't want to upset the dynamic of whatever that relationship was, right? But here's the flip side of it. At some point, I changed, right? Through life experiences, and I'm gonna get to what him Lau was saying as well. But through life experiences, I realized that I didn't want to be the rah person no more. Like that's just me. It had nothing to do with nobody else. It was just my core was like, I still talk loud, but I ain't trying to go. I don't want to go be revving nobody up no more. I don't want to do that, right? And so the key to what I'm trying to get to is that you can get trapped in that too because you were that way for so long, and now the expectation that you feel like these people might have for you, you don't want to change when you're around them, even though you've been being this way with these other people. But again, the key again, and this is where the relationship illusion is, for you to feel like that you can't change, for you to feel like the new version of yourself does not help everybody change as well. And again, it's not about you uh, changing their relationship with you, but it's you change your relationship with yourself so that way they can see that this other version of you is okay too. And to the point of what him Lau was saying, like when it comes to um, children, I'm a father myself. And this is something that I kind of I kind of it kind of like ride with me all the time. And that's the expectation that I have for my kids. Um, how I can get lost in myself, and really what is an expectation is for me, and not setting the foundation by really understanding what it is, because what we're talking about is relationship illusions and not really understanding what relationship they have with themselves, so that way we can really forge out a plan for them to be not what I expect them to be or for where I want them to go, but for what they really trying to accomplish in their life. Even though we look at kids like they can't start to develop that muscle now. I just think in time, with a lot of repetition, that all can change as well. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and to that point too, like Himlau said, love. What he said, love is a feeling. Like yeah, it's a feeling. It's an expression. But whatever it is to you, it originates with you first. And a lot of times in romantic relationships, people will give that away. Well, it's not even give it away. They feel that they themselves lack love by themselves. So, but they love how the other person loves them. So again, they're feeding on that, and they're putting undue pressure on the other one. So now the other person feels burdened, like, dang, this person depends on me. I have to keep staying at this level. But then at that sense, it's kind of depleting them at the same time. and nobody really wins. When in a sense is you have to captivate that love for yourself. Like just love yourself, be in love with yourself, figure out the parts of yourself there are to love so that you can do that. And I know that might not be easy for all in the beginning, but with everything, it's just repetition. It becomes easier and easier. And then you start to realize, because again, if you're only in a relationship with you anyway, there's nothing you really need from anybody else. Not to say that you can't give it, but you're giving just to give. You're not giving for the sake of getting back.
Look, and I want to say this too. This literally was a conversation that I kind of had with my son this weekend with my oldest son. We were on our way to his soccer game on Saturday morning. And shouts out to TJ. We just celebrated his birthday yesterday again. So, happy 12-year-old for you. But I had a talk with him and I was like, look, dude, I want you to know right now, like at this present time in this moment while we're in this car on your way to your soccer game, I love you, dude. Like, there's nothing else that you have to do for me to love you. Like this is what I was saying to him. I was like, I know I'm on you about this and I'm on you about this. And I was like, but at the end of the day, man, it doesn't matter if you do any of those things. Like, I really don't care. Like, I love you right now. And I need you to know that you are amazing as you are. Like, period. Like, I need you to know that you are like great as you are right now. And I said, now I want to stack on top of that. I said, the only reason there's a level of expectation, this was my words, was because of what you said you want to do. It has nothing to do with me. I was like, I'm a father. Of course, I want to see my son grow up to go play college, basketball and go to the NBA. I said, but you don't have to do none of that. I said, who said they want to go do these things? And he said, I did. I said, so because you said that, the reason why I take the steps that I'm taking is to help you accomplish your goal. Like, this is your world. And all the people in your world are here to help you accomplish what you want. And it might not feel good sometimes, but that's just our own way of showing you or pushing you to where you need to go. But I need you to understand right now, you can stop doing everything now. And I know it's hard to take that in, but I love you regardless. You're amazing regardless. And I need you to know it too. Nothing else has to be done. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, no, that's real. And I mean, and that's how it is. Like, if you love doesn't require anything, you know what I mean? Like, again, like, and a lot of people have that confused, but even in relationships, people are like, well, this is my so-and-so, I have to do this. Or I or on the other side, they'll use that to get you to do something. And that puts more strain than it does the freedom that love gives. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but go ahead.
No, I'm going to give you what I feel like is an example, right? Growing up in my household, nobody ever said I love you. Nobody. Like, that just wasn't the way that we was made. Now, here's the deal. I knew my mama loved me, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, without a doubt, like, I 100% knew, like, it's like she was saying the word, and it wasn't that she did anything special, because I didn't always stay with my mom. You know what I'm saying? I didn't grow up with my mama the whole time. I stayed with my granny sometimes. I stayed with my granny for, like, I lived all over the place. But there was like an underlying tone of my life that I just knew, whether she said that mug or not, that my mama loved me, right? Well, I got married at some point, and when I got married, my wife grew up in a house where everybody say they love you all the time. Everybody says it. It's just a part of their makeup. And so for my wife, I know my wife knows that I love her. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't say it all the time, but in the beginning, it was like, well, why you don't tell me this much, right? Like, why is it like that? And it was just like, well, it was a learning process for us both. Like, well, the reason why I don't do this mug, because this is not how we did that mug. And, to help her understand that regardless of what's said, that I love you. You know what I'm saying? But that dynamic shows you that love looks different, because she grew up in a household where it was abundant. I grew up in a household where it was abundant in a different way. And it still meant the same, just depending on who the receiver was. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so even to that, like, I'm in the camp that it doesn't need to be said. Now, and what I mean by that is sometimes it can be used as a manipulation tool, but also, again, love doesn't require anything. So, I mean, you can't say it. If you feel it, express it, say it. But I know like sometimes people expect it to be said back. And it's like, nah, it's just I'm here. You're there. Like we are enjoying each other's company. And I feel like that can add an extra layer of guilt to it. Like, yes, don't you love me? Like and it could put a stain on the relationship instead of just letting it just be as free as it can be, as open as it can be.
But see, that's a part of my point though, right? Where, for her, I know she knows now because I say it now, but again, it's not like I grew up that way, so it's something I'm just gonna be doing all day. Guess what? I
Yeah.
love you. I love you, you know what I'm saying? It's not the way that I operate. But to that point, like me growing up, I never expected that much. And I just knew, right? And so what I just knew, right? But for her, I wanted her to understand that regardless of what I do, you have to know that this is what it is. It doesn't. You have to like I'll tell you today so that way you can have the confirmation. But I want you to understand that I'm here,
Yeah.
right? Like you said, I'm cool. And when we talk about relationship illusions, and you start to put weights on different things to, I guess, justify or make something a realization. Sometimes you just got to open your eyes, and I'm talking about for myself, for everybody, right? Like sometimes you have to be able to read your situation, because I'm not talking about nobody else when it comes to this relationship. Like if you I feel like the reason why my mom didn't have to say it, because I knew who I was early at a young age. And I'm not saying that my wife don't know who she is. You know what I'm saying? They were taught a certain way. But for me, I wasn't taught the way that she was taught. So I had to learn early, like, I love myself. And this is what love looks like to me. So when I looked at the people around me, I recognized love without anything being done. Because again, I recognized what love was to me only. I didn't have to worry about what it looked like to nobody else. I'd have to look at all the examples from the movies. I'd have to look at examples from other people in my family. It was like, what, when with him now talking about a feeling, now let's talk about the feeling. Sat back and I loved myself and said, this is what love feels like to me. What did it require me to do? Okay, it don't require nobody else to do none of that other stuff either. Go ahead, Jay.
Man, and that's it. So first, shout out to Loretta. She recently convinced me to start reading the book Conversations with God. So many people was like, man, you need to read this book. I'm like, I already know this stuff. I'm good. I'm good. I mean, it is on par with all we talk about too. But I mean, it's just another dimension of it, and I'm glad. So one of the things they said though that I thought was so cool that's related to this was like the highest expression of a parent is to the highest expression of a parent is to have their children at a spot where they don't need their parents anymore. The highest expression of a teacher is to show their students that you have the knowledge. You no longer need a teacher. Highest expression of God is to show, all parts of himself that you are God. You don't need God because you are capable of all these same things. And it's the same thing with love. Like to love yourself where you don't necessarily need all these other loves. Now, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's great. It's a bonus. It's beautiful. But that's the key. That's the key that stops a lot of happiness is because people don't believe they have that love. They don't search for love within themselves. So they attach it to all these outside things. And since they have no control of these outside things always change. And so their mood or their self-love changes at the behest of all these other people and things around them.
Yeah, man, like when you even say your self-love changes based off of all these outside factors, is just an amazing thought. And it just it just shows you the power that we put on the relationship illusion when it comes to other people. Like it's like just giving all your power away to circumstance. And I always like to, again, I always say that all the people aside from my wife and my kids, those are the people that I'm around. I want to say like 80% of the time. And so like I literally like I know more about my kids than I know about my wife. And the reason why is because I've seen them almost every day of their life. where I only saw her from the time she was, you know, 25 and up. So it was like big portions. Oh, go ahead, Jay. You can say
But
something.
I was gonna say, well, you know them from the perspective of a parent.
Right. But what I'm trying to convey is I've literally seen them develop over all of these years. And so the reason why I point that out is because when we talk about giving your power away to somebody, you're giving away power to people that you don't know. You're giving your power away to people that you can't completely understand. Like my wife didn't start dating me until she was 30. So like, why should I have control over what love looks like to her when there's a whole gap of life that she doesn't even know where my entire mind is? You know what I'm saying? And so that's the reason why I use my kids as an example, because they're the only people that I've been around the entire life. Like I've seen every step of the way, and then they've seen again, that definition for me, their definition is going to be ever evolving, because they've only known me for 8 years, but they know a lot of people for that long. I mean, for 10 years or 12 years, they've known a lot of people for that time. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, I love that. And in a sense, like the key is to be selfish. Like, and I know how that sounds, but the only reason it sounds bad is because these people aren't being selfish because they think it's a reward to give all of themselves to someone else. But when you're selfish, that doesn't mean you're not going to give. I think that means the opposite. You are going to give because you feel you feel with so much emotion and joy and love that it overflows. You want to give this to people. You want to share what you are with the world. And like I know you love giving to your kids. Like you don't, and I know you're not doing it for something in return. Like you can't help it because it's who you are. But you are being selfish in that sense of you doing what you want to do. And if everyone did that, like the world would be so happy.
So that's why I go back to the beginning of our conversation and I talk about the relationship I have with myself. Am I am I doing these things because it's a father's duty, relationship illusion, or am I doing these things because the core of me, like, is really being fulfilled by me doing it? Because it's two different things. I know dads that do dad duties, but only do it because of what they feel like they're supposed to do. To me, that's a difference. Like when I do something for my kids, I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for myself, because there's a certain level of love, and like I am like when I take my son out to go shoot basketball, like he's looking like my dad is making me work, because now my dad said, I told my dad this is what I want, so he's helping me get there. But when I go out, I am full of joy the entire time, no matter what my outside appearance shows, because in my soul I feel like this is everything to me. It has nothing to do with me being a dad. Like, I mean, it has something to do with me being a dad, but I'm not doing it because I'm a dad. Like, I'm really like, because in the process of it, there's frustration. Why are you not doing it this way? Why are you not doing this? But the core of me is jumping up for joy. I'm in full of love because I'm so happy that I get the opportunity to do something that I love to do. I'm helping him do it, but I love to do this. He don't love it as much as I'm doing. I love it because it's a task for him. His relationship is with basketball. I'm doing this because I want to play basketball. I'm not doing this because I want to be your dad. I'm doing this because I really love this right now. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you said that his relationship is with is with basketball. And yeah, we got to be like mindful too of what our relationships are with. You know what I mean? And what we're bringing to it, what we believe it brings us. Because I think that's an illusion too. Like it's not that it really brings us anything. It just brings us more awareness of ourselves. We learn something new about ourselves based on the relationships we're in. Again, whether it's real people or whether it's things or entities. And Loretta said, hold on. And you
And you,
loving your children. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what it is. That's a part of it. So I'm gonna say this. I love my children. I love loving my children. I love loving everybody, though I don't verbalize it the way that people do, because to me, that's just what it is to me. But like the people that are around me the most, my wife and my kids, you're absolutely 100% right. It doesn't matter if it brings them joy, because me being on my son doesn't always bring him joy. It doesn't. Like, he's not always happy about it. But me being there because of how I feel like it helps my relationship with me. Like, it's nothing beyond it. They the closest people to me, and I just think that me giving the thing that brings me, Troy, the most joy is me putting them in a position to win. That's what it is. And then it trickles down to everybody else around me as you get further down the line. That's why I was saying earlier, like, I know the core of me, the relationship that I have with myself, that the thing that makes me the happiest is seeing people win. It, like, everything that I do is about seeing other people win. And again, the selfishness of it is that's what makes me happy. I don't have to do it, but I want to do it. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and right, and that's what's it was cool about selfishness is like people say things are selfish because it's one sided, it's of yourself. But when you are truly selfish in the purest sense, like, and you are self centered in your highest self, you're giving to everyone, like, because you can't help it. It's your essence. You are joy. You are overflowing love. So you give what you are. What you have to give, you give. And if you're miserable, you're going to give misery to everyone around you because that's what you have to give. And so it's important that you do for you first, no matter what. And in the process of doing for you, if you happen to do for others, cool. But it's important that you really look at what brings you the most joy, and you learn from these relationships. That's what they're for. They're learning tools for you to learn about yourself and recognize that too. Like, I'm grateful for the relationships I would judge as good and the ones I would judge as bad, because you learn so much in both, and you can't really put one over the other.
I'm gonna give you an example of something that kills me. Like, again, I'm telling you, I do things because the core of me, the relationship that I have with myself, it says this is what you are, Troy, for you. This is what you need to do. I've been around people and they will talk down on themselves and 100% mean it. And in those people, I've had conversations with them before, and I've told them, no, you're more than that. You know, you're great. All these other things, right? But yet and still, when they're around me, they may mention it or say these things again, and they also know that he gonna say this, right? But I also, in my mind, this is when I start to be miserable, not because they said it. It's when I start to say, I'm not gonna say nothing this time. Now, the reason why I don't want to say anything is because of my relationship with them. So now I'm resistant to doing this because I'm trying to satisfy and not make them feel uncomfortable being around me, and them actually being able to accept what they said about themselves, right? But in those times, that joy that I was talking about is eliminated, because while I sit there, the only thing I can think to myself is, am I going to say something? Am I not going to say something? Am I going to say something? Am I not going to say something? And it's just eating me up inside to the point where I just be like, look, I know what you said about yourself, but that ain't right. And the only way that I can get back to being happy, no matter what the outcome is going to be, is by me to uplift. I have to. No, under all circumstances, I have to get it out, because if I don't, I will walk away from that conversation being miserable. I'll think about it later. I'll be miserable. Next time I talk to them, I'm going to remember that I didn't say anything. And it's just, that's when you start to realize how the relationship dynamic really is with yourself. Go ahead, Jay.
Now I'm laughing because I had something similar happen this week where somebody affirmed themselves a limitation. I was like, nah, you don't got that. And they got mad at me. But I felt fine in it, because it's like, again, we have to be ourselves, right? And I believe we are one. You are me, I am you. Like, if I'm only in a relationship with myself, I'm only seeing my definitions of you. So again, I'm not saying you, I'm saying my definitions of you. And because of that, like, I don't want any limitations in my world. I don't want any, like, I see you highly, like I see myself highly. I see you just as highly because of that. And like the same way, I have to remind everyone of that. I can't be around you and you are limiting yourself, because that can lead to me limiting myself. And no, I'm not gonna limit myself. So I'm gonna big you up so that you can know that you are right here with me together. Neither of us are higher than the other. We are both just very highly.
And I would even go on to say, even just kind of give you some credit. I don't even think that you do it just because, like, I really just be believing you believe that about people. Like, that's how I feel like. And I think that's the other part too, when it comes to the relationship illusion. Like, people only see this much of you, just this much, right? And generally, most times, people only see the best of you. Like, they only see what you're willing to give in those little 15-minute increments that we see people on a daily basis, or, on social media, wherever you might see somebody at. And so in those little 15 minutes, how much can you really determine about somebody? And that's the reason why it's important that, like, in your 15 minutes, you give you, because that's the difference in changing the world and not. Honestly, for me, like, and also bringing more of what you want around you to be around you, instead of you creating this person that's not real. And when the people that need you to be there, you can't be, because they never got a chance to meet you. They never got a chance to see who you were. They never got a chance to get the real aura of Troy Washington or Jelani Clay. Like, you missed a step by eliminating yourself from the equation. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I love what you said. That being who you are not is not sustainable. Is gonna drain you. It's gonna drain you doubly as fast the more you are personifying something that you know that you're not. And that's why it's important just to be who you are as soon as possible. People don't like you, it's cool. You know this as soon as possible. You're not invested all this time, all this fake identityness in a relationship for the illusion of the relationship, just for them to find out who you are later, and then it's a bad breakup, bad whatever. Like, be who you are unapologetically. Everybody's not gonna like it, but you get to start to shape your world based on all the things you love, based on all the people you love, based on all the circumstances and hobbies and ideas and relations that you love. And yeah, just that's the key.
And I would say this too, like, whatever expectation you feel like somebody has of you, why don't you just ask them? Why don't you just ask, like, do you expect me to do this? Like, one thing I love about me and your relationship, like, for real though, there have been times where you would get on Polo and you'll be like, and I know I've said it too, but you'll be like, man, Troy, we working on something. I didn't get to that mug. I know you're not tripping though, right? And then I would come on and I would tell you, I don't care about that, dog. And I think that the reason why that's important is because you can tell yourself that I do care. And if you tell yourself that I do care, now we have a limitation that only you think that's out there, and now you're going to act accordingly. And then when me and you have our next line of communication, I don't know why you're tense. I don't know why you're aloof. I don't know why, we're not vibing the way that we're supposed to, because you haven't told me. And so the reason why I point that out to everybody is because if you feel like somebody has an expectation of you and you ask them, they can remove that from you, so that way you can be free. So that way you can be you. And I know I've done the same thing for you. In my mind, like, I was like, man, I know you're not tripping. But the reason why I say that is because I'm having to tell myself what I know is the truth anyway, but I'm also trying to relinquish that, so that way we can continue to have the dynamic that we have. Like, remove those expectations. And if you can't, ask. See if they really expect that from you. And if somebody does come back and tell you they expect it from you, then y'all got a whole nother conversation to have. Well, why do you expect this from me? Like, but go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I was laughing because because one, you talked about how, like, you come back to a relationship. You engage with that person, and then they're mad. Like you don't know why. Like why is this tense? You know what happened? But one thing, like a long time ago, I remember somebody was mad at me. I asked her, I was like, "What did I do?" And she said, "It's what you didn't do." And for whatever reason, that was hilarious in my mind. And but if you look at it, people will get mad not at what you did, but what you didn't do at the same time, which is insane thinking when you think about it. I did nothing. That's why I'm mad. What? Like, and it's funny. We give all these powers to others to influence our life when no, we should influence our life.
But again, that's the reason why I would even go back to say just ask. You know what I'm saying? Because if it's something that you're not doing, you give them an opportunity to tell you. And then if it's not something that you're supposed to do, then you can tell them why you shouldn't do it. But nonetheless, the communication becomes very clear. And now you have a true baseline of what, if there is an expectation, it should be. Like my expectation is not to do that for you. My expectation is to, whatever that be. I think is important that you communicate that and get that clear. Well, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. And so what we're talking about, like, there's a book, I bring it up all the time, A Course in Miracles. They talk about holy relationships. And what we're talking about now, the relationship where there's no expectations, that's a holy relationship. But a unholy relationship, or in the illusion of love, is the give and take, is the conditional relationship. I love you if you do these things. If you keep doing X, Y, Z, I will always love you. That's conditional love. And that's grounds for problems. You know what I mean? Like all problems stem from expectations, as you said. And if you have no expectations, how can there be problems? Now, I know some people might say, well, what's life without expectations? That's a sad life. It's not, because you are being driven by your fire, by your desire, not by the expectations of your desire, but by the desire itself. And when you remain in that love, in that center, life is fun. Like you can do no wrong in that sense, because you're following your passion.
So I'm gonna say this. So when we talk about the relationship illusion, and again, what I've been alluding to this entire time is developing a relationship with yourself. And what a lot of people do, especially specifically in religion, they say, the only relationship that matters is your relationship with God. And the reason why, that's a point is because they're trying to get you to eliminate all the expectations of all the other relationships that you may have. Like the only thing matters is God. Because if you make that be your focal point, it kind of diminishes any other relationship that you can have, because it's like, well, what's more important than God? But the reason why I point that out is when you're developing a relationship with yourself, the thing that I would encourage people to do is meditate. And I know we talk about that heavily on the show, but I do some guided meditations. And one of the things that I always love whenever we get into a guided meditation is when they start, they say, go ahead and, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let go of everything that happened before now, right? And let go of every expectation that you have from before now. Let go of everything that you feel like you need to do, and just try to be still within yourself and focus only on your breathing, only on yours, making it you the focal point of all things. But let me read what Aurelia Perez says. Shouts out to Aurelia. Much love to you for joining us today. I always try to make everyone happy. I always put other people first. At the end, I feel empty. I was married for 23 years, and my ex-husband and kids' needs were always first. How can we change that? And I'm just gonna say, much love to Aurelia. Like I call her Big O. I've been knowing her for many years, and you want to talk about somebody that, like, what she's saying, putting people first. It's been a big thing. Even when I come around, she's trying to put me in front of everybody too, and I'm like, nah, man. But I think, Aurelia, if I could, say anything to that is, you're not married anymore. Your kids are, mature, and they're starting to, do their own things. Take some time to really visit with yourself. When I was just talking about meditation, spending some time it's going to take time to weed through your life. Like when you meditate, you explore stuff that you've experienced, but you also are able to dwindle down and get back to your core. And for me, like I told you, I do things where it might feel like I'm putting people before me, but no, I'm really putting myself first. I did this because it truly makes me happy. And I think that's kind of where you want to head, so that way you can I guess start to build back up that love for yourself that you want. Go ahead, Jay. What you got?
Yeah, I would say first, like, don't be hard on yourself.
True.
Whatever happened, happened. And again, like, this is how we learn about ourselves. That, like, these relationships are here for a reason. These relationships help us see who we are or who we think we are based on the circumstances that they bring about. So, like Troy said, first, just start to see what you like. Try stuff. I mean, you might try something and you don't like it, but at least you know, and just kind of get into that mode. But also be mindful of your attention. Start to be aware of your intentions of doing whatever you're doing. Am I doing this for me, or am I doing this for someone else? And again, you could do something for someone else for you. Like, it could be both, but just
Yep.
be clear on your intentions. And if you're doing it solely for somebody else and you feel bad about it, don't do it. But if you feel good about it, like if it's bringing you joy, by all means do it. But don't have expectations on them in return. Like, don't say, because I'm doing this for you, this means you have to do this back for me.
Bro, let me tell you, and I'm gonna read what him loud said in a second, but there have been times, no lie, where I did something for somebody, and I did it because they wanted to, and I wasn't happy about it. But what happened for me was I was resentful of it the whole time. Like, I was always constantly thinking about, like, I always want me to do something. Like, I only did this much. Like, I couldn't let it go. You know, it's just one of those things. Now again, you know, when I've done it because I wanted to, it still was the same goal. And I guess I said that to say this. Um, sometimes sometimes you can do things for people that you don't want to do them for. You can do things for circumstances that you don't want to do it for. And I would tell you to pause, because you can still end up doing it. But what you want to do is try to figure out if it can make you happy, if there's some love in it for you. Um, because sometimes you can. Sometimes you might not be looking at it from the vantage point that you think that you could look at it. Like, nothing about me getting up at 5:30 in the morning for my son to shoot is enjoyable. Aside from the fact that more than me getting up at 5:30, me helping my son is everything. So, it's kind of like a give and take. I can only think about the 5:30, or I can think about what else I get from it. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, let me read some of these comments. Loretta said, women have been especially conditioned to self-sacrifice. Yes, I agree. It starts with self-love. She also said, I agree to not judge yourself. And Himlao
And
said, I encourage couples to strive for the good enough relationship. And I would ask you, I know we're low on time, to expand on that, because I wouldn't say good enough. I would say good. Like this is your life. You might as well have it the way you want it. Like if there's something in it that could be better, improve upon it. If it's something that you don't like, that you like, I need to get rid of this, get rid of it. I mean, again, you are the chooser of your life, and no one else would do it for you.
I personally don't think that you making you happy makes anybody mad. I mean, I know it might be uncomfortable for people in time, but the more happy you are, the more joy you can bring to other people. It's automatic. It's just automatic. Like, if you're happy, it doesn't matter how mad somebody is around you. If you walking around with a smile on your face and now you can give all of that joy to somebody else, they will eventually turn. But that's just me, man.
I can't even do it. I'm laughing because I was going to try to put on the mean face and just be mad to just show what would happen. Like, if you just mad all the time. But I'm too happy to be mad. So
Look, mad people make you mad though, straight up. Like, when you're mad all the time, like, even me, it's hard to make me mad. But if somebody be around me mad all the time, the first thing that I start to think is, why you mad all the time? And in that moment, I'm mad because I'm mad that you're mad. So, that's just a that's just a whole nother thing. But that needs to be a topic. But
yeah.
I just want to tell y'all, man, we're grateful for everybody that joined us today. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. We definitely be doing something, but we definitely wouldn't be here. And y'all make us better by even engaging with us. And I hope that y'all all realize that y'all are perfect. The only reason that you think that you're not perfect is you trying to do it like somebody else. But keep doing you, and understand that, when we talk about relationship illusions, the relationship that you need to start to foster first is with you. Love you, find you, see what that looks like. It takes time, like Jay said, but you keep on swinging, and eventually you're gonna find that thing. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and so next week there will be no show next week. I'm traveling to Paris. Oh yeah, but hopefully the next week after that I'll be able to broadcast from there. We'll be able to continue going. But I appreciate all y'all rocking with us on this day. If you found this show helpful, hit the share button, like, subscribe if you're watching it on YouTube, and just remember, you're a perfect creation made by a perfect creator. So you might as well accept your perfection and enter perfect mode.
Yeah.
If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm Jay Clay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect.
Perfect.